Fantastic. Thank you, Giovanni. So one thing, to say, I am a philosopher, so it's probably going to be a bit of a different vibe to the talks that you've been hearing. So it is a talk that is somewhat academic philosophy-y, but the topic itself, which I'll now put up on the screen, this idea of search neutrality, so which is my topic, is something that is very much not just of philosophical interest. So as you'll see as we go along, there's all sorts of debates in the public realm, as you may be aware, about this idea of search neutrality. And quite notably, very recently, in Gonzalez versus Google, this case that was put before the US Supreme Court, there's a lot of discussion among the judges about whether Google's search engine was neutral. Okay, so that's setting the stage. Let's jump right in. So in 2005, Adam and Siobhan Raff started a comparison shopping site, Foundum.com, which you can see here. And Foundum showed promise. It would at one point be named the best comparison shopping site in the UK. Comparison shopping, like think Google shopping now. But on June 26th, 2006, Google changed its search algorithm, and Foundum fell from its place among the top 3 spots for shopping-related searches to the 70s. And it's said in the SEO industry that if you want to bury a body, you put it on the 2nd page of Google. And Foundum was no exception. As you can see on the screen here, it didn't last very long. This is an artifact of the past, this website. So Foundum's business would not recover from the loss of traffic in Google. And in some ways, Foundum's story is unremarkable. They allege that they suffered from algorithmic bias, or in particular, search bias. And in 2017, the EU would vindicate part of their accusation, at least, when it fined Google $2.4 billion for being biased in favor of its own products over those of its competitors, including Foundum. There is a way, though, in which Foundum's story is remarkable, and that's that its founders, Adam and Siobhan Raff, started the search neutrality movement in response to the damage done to their business. And this idea of search neutrality, as I sort of suggested, has gained some purchase in the public and legal consciousness, and it is my topic. So I'm concerned with 3 questions. First, what is search neutrality? What might this be that we're talking about? Second, is it even possible? So we've got the search neutrality movement calling for search engines to be neutral. We've got Google, on the other hand, saying, for example, that their search engine is neutral, but is it even possible to be neutral? And then the third question, something that I won't get into today, but is in the paper, is what can we learn about search bias when we've sort of got search neutrality in mind? Okay, so first question, what is search neutrality? And to answer this question, I'm going to take as my starting point a whole literature about the notion of neutrality, which is that of the notion of neutrality in science and whether it's possible for science to be neutral. So here is how scientific neutrality is commonly defined. Science is neutral only if non-epistemic values play no role in how scientific practices are conducted. I don't have time to explain exactly what this means. There are a bunch of specialized terms from philosophy, but the basic idea is pretty simple. So let's say you've got a scientist who bears allegiance to a certain political party. She does a bunch of research, and the findings of her research would damage her favored party. And so she just doesn't publish them. So this looks like a case in which her scientific practice is not neutral, and because there is a value, namely that of a certain political ideology, that plays a role in how she chooses to publish things. That value is a non-epistemic value. Basically, a non-epistemic value is a value that doesn't try to get at the truth. So like predictive power is an epistemic value. Consistency of a theory is an epistemic value. Political ideology is not. Okay, so we might ask, why characterize scientific neutrality like this? And the answer is basically because science aims to get at the truth. That's what we're trying to do when we do science, to get to the truth. And non-epistemic values, basically by definition, things like a political ideology don't aim to get at the truth. They deviate from that path. They're a form of bias, and so non-neutrality. So I want to take this concept of scientific neutrality and port it over to search engines. And so we have to think of what is to search engines as truth is to science. In other words, what do search engines aim at? And I don't need to tell all of you in the room, the traditional answer is relevance. And so there's just a couple of quotes I have here. I won't read out loud, some by information scientists, some by legal scholars of information. And so we also all know in the room that not all search engines, at least those today, are trying to just give relevant results. Some are trying to give results that are both relevant and useful insofar as those things are distinct, or relevant and true, or relevant and fair, maybe. But I'm just going to sort of take as given this traditional answer, and what I say about search engines that aim at relevance can be ported over to search engines with other aims. So here's the definition of search neutrality. A search engine is neutral only if values other than relevance play no role in how the search engine ranks pages. So let's say, for example, that a given search engine bears a certain political allegiance to a certain party, and that party is embroiled in a scandal. But when people type in, political scandal, the news about that scandal is way down in the search results. It's relevant, but it's not ranked highly. So here we have a value other than relevance, namely a certain kind of political ideology, playing a role in how the search engine ranks pages. So obviously I have kind of proposed this notion of search neutrality, motivated it on theoretical grounds. But it's, I think, really fascinating that this is more or less the kind of the way in which search neutrality has been understood by scholars, lawyers, search engine operators, and their critics alike. So here's just two examples. Sundar Pichai testifying in front of the US Congress in 2018. He is accused of a certain kind of bias, and he says, look, we get concerns about political bias from both Democrats and Republicans. I can assure you that we deliver search results in a neutral way, and we do this based on a specific keyword, what we're able to assess as the most relevant information. So they have no values other than relevance working in their search results, or that's the claim. The search neutrality movement, the arch nemesis of Google, says search neutrality can be defined as the principle that search engines should have no editorial policies other than that their results be based purely on or solely on relevance. Okay, that is my first question out of the way. What is search neutrality? Second question, is search neutrality possible? Answer, no. Okay, that's the short answer. Now here is an argument. So I'm not going to get into the details here, but I think very interestingly, we can look again to the literature on neutrality in science to form, that shouldn't say and, it should be an underdetermination argument that search neutrality is not possible, because there are a bunch of people who argue that scientific neutrality is not possible, which might be surprising to you, and it is contested. But I'm interested in the form of argument, not about what conclusions people draw about science. So here is kind of the first premise in my argument. And this is that relevance is a multidimensional concept. And this is a technical term from semantics, the subfield of linguistics. And the basic idea here is compare relevance to smartness. So Anne might be street smart, but Bob is book smart. Anne is smart along the dimension of, whatever makes for street smartness. Bob is good at, reading books, doing math problems, whatever. So smartness has different dimensions, and it might not be that one of Ann and Bob is just simply smarter than the other. They're just smarter in different ways. So I think, and I'm certainly not the first to think this, although as I understand it, I might be the first to put it in these terms, that relevance is also a multidimensional concept. So one dimension of relevance is a certain level of informativeness or amount of information. Another is something like salience or importance. So you could imagine one site that has a ton of information, but about stuff that's not super salient given the search query. Or you might have a different site that discusses things that are highly salient, but doesn't carry much information at all. So these websites are relevant in different ways. And the basic thought here is, I'm running up on time, so I'm just gonna kind of run through. Just like you could have Bob being book smart and Ann being street smart. We can't really answer the question of simply who is smarter than the other. It's not that one is smarter than the other. It's not even that they're equally smart. It's just that they can't be compared for smartness. Anyway, this is a sort of a well-established thought in the literature. And so I think relevance is like this. And so the claim is that if two pages are incomparable with respect to relevance, then just saying, I want to rank pages on the basis of relevance doesn't determine which of those pages to rank above the other. And if it doesn't determine this, then you need something else in play. You need some value other than relevance to play a role in how to rank pages. And this, of course, contradicts the idea of neutrality as defined. So search neutrality is impossible. All right, thank you.